Alrighty, what is going on? Let's just do a little Vietnam Dong news, okay? I could be doing these every day, but it's the same thing pretty much. Here's what I'm watching for. You guys heard me talk about it several times. And that is, when it comes to Vietnam, their currency is not the same as what we want to happen in Iraq. Two different, totally separate situations. Whenever I read news about Vietnam, what I'm looking for is any types of news on economical growth, any types of news on expansion of their economy, trade deals that are being made, anything that shows me that there's an opportunity for Vietnam to continue to grow internationally. What this does is it will strengthen their currency. Now, we all know today's April 3rd, and we know come Monday, the new penalties for currency manipulation go into effect. Now, does that mean something's going to happen to the Vietnam Dong on that day? I have no idea because it's never been implemented before. But I could tell you this. We know the new rules are there, but we also know that twice a year, the currency manipulation watch list that the U.S. puts out, it comes out twice a year. The next time it comes out is in May. So even though we might not see any currency rate exchange increase by Vietnam on April 6th, I would be surprised if they did, or maybe not. Either way, we'll take it. But here's the thing. What I think will happen is this. They were on the currency watch list a year ago, last May. They were violating three of the categories, three of the areas out of three. So 3 out of 3, they were violating the criteria, meaning they were big time currency manipulators. And then I think it was in November. In November, the other report came out and it said that only one of the three were still being violated. Since then, we've seen that starting in 2020, they've seen a pretty big economical boom despite the coronavirus. This is good. So now they're back to violating 2 of the 3 criteria. So even though the penalties and everything get implemented on April 6th, we know that the currency manipulation report comes out in May. And Vietnam does not want to be it on a third time in a row because that's when the penalties will be implemented. So let's hope that we see some type of increase in the currency exchange rate for Vietnam between now and at least May when the report comes out. We know they don't want to be on the bad side of America because you know how Trump is when it comes to negotiating, and he has made it perfectly clear that he is not going to be tolerating any countries that are manipulating their currencies, okay? So let's get into it. How's Vietnam doing? Whoa, before we get into it, just a quick reminder, everybody. I know I do this every time, but it's important. This is a good place for a lot of people to come and get a lot of free information. There's a lot of information out there that you guys are paying for in Patreon groups when you could come here and get it for free. The same news. As a matter of fact, a lot of people in this group take the information from other groups and bring it in here, all right? So there is a link in the description that brings you to Pimpy's Investment Chat. It's the same as my YouTube channel. I encourage you to follow it. You can come in here and join us. There's a lot of information in here on the Iraqi dinar, on the Vietnam dong, on the Zim dollar, cryptocurrencies, gold, silver, the whole 9 yards. It's a great way to ask a lot of questions in case you have some. There's not a lot of very knowledgeable people in here, and I encourage you just to come join us, all right? It's one of the fastest growing groups on Facebook. So not everybody in here is just about the dinar or the dong. So there's a lot of other things that you guys might be willing to entertain, okay? So anyways, let's kind of get into the news. Again, what we're looking for is growth opportunities, things that are, booming the economy. Okay, so I thought this was interesting. So traditional markets and convenience stores compete for buyers. So, I have noticed this type of change. Especially here in California. Now you have your regular convenience stores over there, or not your convenience stores, but your markets. You have your regular markets, but what these guys are calling convenience stores are these little storefront stores that you see here. They have a lot of farmers markets, and I'm noticing that a lot of people are starting to go to these types of stores. So what you want is the fresh, good food that you get in the convenience store, but people don't want to be in crowded areas. So you could just walk down farmers markets and get stuff that you need real quick and simple. But not, let me just let you know that out of all the farmers markets that I usually go see, there's only one that's open right now. So, but there are a lot of convenience stores like this that in Vietnam, anyways. And this article goes on to explain how people are starting to frequent those more than going into your regular convenient or your regular traditional markets. All right. So this is good. I like this. I like this here when things are competing against one another, because when you compete, who benefits? The buyers benefit. What's that do? It makes you want to spend more. And if you spend more, what happens? It's a boom to the economy. This is what you need to do to keep an economy going. You need this type of stuff going in there. A free open market strengthens the economy. Anyways, like I said, this is one of the things that I like to look for. It goes on here to explain how there are more than 3,000 convenience stores, twice as many as 2 years ago, and more than 8,000 traditional markets, and 2.2 million retail households. Okay, so look, this is what we need in Iraq. This is what I keep hoping I start to see in Iraq. This type of growth, this type of competition within a country is great for the economy. This is really what you want to see: an open and fair and strong market. Okay, so it's a small thing. It's not anything to do with the dong, other than the fact that this is what I look for when I go to read news about the Vietnam dong, is what's going on in the economy. Okay, so look at in here, the article starts to look like a doom and gloom, but the truth is it's not. Okay, Vietnam's growth, economical to grow despite the virus. It goes on here to say that things have slowed down. It's drastically slowed down, but it's still growing. The economy, again, that's what I'm looking for. Even though there's this hurdle of the Wuhan virus, or what we like to call the beer bug, the beer bug, the coronavirus. All right. So Vietnam's economy growth rate is expected to slow sharply to 4.8% this year due to impact of the corona epidemic. All right. The report showed that the country would suffer an ongoing drop in demand from its principal trade and investment partners. It might say, it suffers, but it's not really suffering when you go down into this article. And as usual, I'll leave a link to all the articles so you can read for yourself. It's just saying that it slowed down. Look at economical growth decelerated to 3.8% in the first quarter of 2020, compared to 6.8% in the same time period last year. Okay, travel and other restrictions imposed by the government to slow the spread of the virus led to lower domestic consumption. Manufacturing weathered early headwinds, but inputs, including the part of global value chains, are being depleted. Okay, so here's my thing. I want you to think about this. If economies like Vietnam are thriving, even with the epidemic happening right now, even now, what the hell do you think is going to happen once we get the green light to go back to a normal life? These types of economies are really going to shoot up like a rocket. All right. Plus, you can anticipate boosts from governments around the world to their citizens, some type of, stimulus package, something to help the economy get growing, something to keep them going. And you add that into the fact that people are just going to be so happy to get the hell out of the house. You're going to start seeing a boom in restaurants, booms in markets, booms in shopping, man. Bricks and mortars, they were taking a hit by, the internet. But, I think people would just be thrilled to death to just go out into the shopping centers and shop. So I like this. I like that Vietnam is in this position, even though it might be slowing down a little bit. This article goes on to talk about, despite it slowing down, they are anticipating a huge growth for the year. Okay. So that's good. This is what I'm talking about. We want to see this. Okay, we want to see the fact that Vietnam is still continuing to thrive, and we're getting hit pretty hard here in the United States. Our dollar will continue to weaken, and if that's the case, other currencies will strengthen against them, or at least try to get caught up. Vietnam, if they're going in one direction and we're going the other, that only benefits their currency. Okay, so I'm anticipating some things happening between now and before this. I don't think Vietnam can afford to get, especially when they're seeing so much growth. All right, I can't imagine them being on Trump's currency manipulation hit list. You're just not gonna. They just can't afford to do that. So I do anticipate some type of bump in the currency exchange rate. What it is, I don't know. I have my own idea of where it might end up, but let's just see what happens because they can't afford to be on it a third time in a row. See, once you're on it, you're automatically on it a second time. So it gives you the where you were to where you are now. But if you're on it a third time, this isn't good at all, okay? So let's anticipate that. This is good. This is good news. This is what I'm looking for. So for all of you Vietnam dong holders, this is what you want to see, growth, even amongst the pandemic, all right? What else is going on? Well, this is what we want to see happen in Iraq as well. Outside investors are coming in. So Japan is buying major shares in one of Vietnam's, or I should say Vietnam's second largest banks. So that's going to give them more money into their economy. What I mean by that is Vietnam is raising millions, hundreds of millions of dollars by bringing in outside investors. And again, what does that do? It stimulates the economy. All right. So this article goes on to talk about how Japan has taken an interest, as well as a couple of other foreign countries. They're wanting to partner up with Vietnam. I really, the more I read about Vietnam, the more I'm starting to realize, this guy made this point. Oh, he's been there. He's an American who moved to Vietnam 27 years ago. And he said, back then, most of the roads were dirt. You know what I mean? It was just real filthy looking place. He said Vietnam is not the same. Over the past 20 years, he has seen the huge change in Vietnam. And I have to admit, Vietnam is a place that I anticipate on going to see. You know what I mean? Once these rate change happens, I want to do a lot of traveling. And Vietnam is at the top of my list. I absolutely want to go there and check this out. I'm a huge fan of food, and I definitely want to go around to some of their open markets and test out their foods that they have. I've seen so many videos on them. It's unbelievable. So again, here we are. We're seeing outside investors coming into Vietnam. They're taking an interest into Vietnam. This is good. This is what we need Iraq to happen in Iraq. We need them to have outside investors come into the countries and start investing into their country. Right here, we're seeing another article that the export steel to China increased suddenly 26 times. So, according to the latest information from the General Department of Vietnam Customs, in the first 15 days of March, the country exported 297,018 tons of iron and steel with a total turnover of 165 million, bringing the total results from the beginning of the year up to nearly 1.5 million tons with a turnover of 815 million. So it's up 3.8% in volume, but the turnover down nearly 10%. But here's the thing. They're increased their exporting to China 26 times as much as before. Okay, so if you come down here, you could see that there's a huge increase. Look, the next market. So anyway, we're at. Okay, Vietnam exported more than 6.68 million tons of iron and steel of all kinds, turnover of 4.21 billion. That's nice. Okay, that's a huge chunk of money, up 6.7% in volume, down 7.4% in turnover compared to 2018. That was in 2019. It's already there. I think what I just read an article that they're actually for 2020 are already passing their 2019 numbers up, and we're only starting our second quarter of 2020. So, anyways, this is really good. This is what I'm looking for. I like to see this type of stuff. The next markets are Indonesia. This is another one that I'm interested in their currency, and Malaysia. That's another one that I'm interested in their currency. All right. So I like to see this type of growth. So what we're seeing over there in Vietnam and just the South China Sea border countries. So Vietnam, Malaysia, Taiwan, Indonesia, Philippines, they're really seeing a huge economical bump. It's been going on since the China trade war. I think China is going to suffer big time. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of countries that are pissed that their citizens are dying, and China could have said something earlier to prevent a lot of this spread. So there's already people talking about, and I heard Italy and Spain say this, that they want to charge China for war damages. To them, this is an attack. And I think Trump's going to agree with this. So, I expect China to take a pretty huge hit. If they don't agree with this and they want to complain, you're going to see a lot of people, I think, start to really boycott what's going on in China. This could damage them, but it could benefit all these countries that we're talking about that we want to see thrive, including Vietnam. All right, so smash the like button if you like this, because look, if you own Vietnam Dong, these are the types of articles you want to see. You want to see growth, expansion, outside investors coming in. Hell, if you own the dinar, this is what you hope to see in that country happen real soon, okay? All right, then, y'all have a good one.